Earl Nightingale's message is a masterclass in service, attitude, and perseverance, offering timeless insights into what it takes to achieve personal and professional success. He vividly illustrates how our rewards in life are directly tied to the quality and extent of the service we provide to others. Through captivating stories such as contrasting two restaurants, one flourishing through generosity and excellence, the other struggling due to short-sightedness, he emphasizes that true success comes from giving more than expected and valuing customers or clients above immediate profits. Nightingale also explores the transformative power of attitude, showing how a mindset of confidence and great expectations can shape outcomes and inspire those around us. Furthermore, he delves into the critical importance of persistence, highlighting how staying the course, even through failures and setbacks, separates the winners from the rest. This message is a call to embrace excellence, cultivate a positive attitude, and relentlessly pursue our goals by serving others to the best of our abilities.
Our rewards, all the years of our lives, will be in relative proportion to our service. Because of that great idea, articulated by Einstein, we can get rid of the what's-in-it-for-me approach. That's the hallmark of the immature, the typical small-time operator. There's a restaurant operated by a family in a lovely coastal town in California. Month after month, year after year, it hangs on by its fingernails. Now this despite the fact that the food is quite good and the bakery products excellent. The owners have the idea firmly fixed in their combined mentality that the way to produce the largest profit is to give the least for the best possible price. The idea makes sense on paper. The less one pays for the product one serves, and the greater the price charged, the larger will be the profit spread. But this figuring is without the consent of the customer. The customer has an entirely different idea. The customer wants the most for the least amount of money, and the customer makes the decision as to where he or she will spend his or her money. People vote with their money. They will vote for one place rather than another because they believe they receive a better value. And at the restaurant under discussion, the customer quickly sees that he or she is being charged a maximum price for the least possible product. For example, while almost all restaurants serve butter on the table, this place butters the bread in the kitchen, but does so sparingly that it's immediately apparent, and it may not be butter at all. It's the same with the other dishes served. The least possible service for the largest possible price. That is, the largest price most customers will pay without argument and only a certain amount of grumbling. So people don't go back to this restaurant a second time. The most profitable customers for any business are those who come back again and again and bring their friends. This place misses that richest vein of trade because of its ridiculous penny pinching. Month after month, the owners fail to see the cause of their failure. Another place opened up not long ago in the same general neighborhood. It's crowded every day. It has a marvelously diversified menu and serves large, delicious servings for the prices charged. The customers at this new place feel they're being well served for the money they're spending. My wife and I were having lunch there one day when we noticed a man in street clothes cleaning the table next to ours. We had noticed how busy he was, jumping in wherever he was needed to give the busy waitresses a hand. We introduced ourselves. He was the owner. It was his 9th restaurant in an escalating plan, and he was delighted with it, as we were. It was the culmination of several years of working and planning, and it's a place to be proud of, a real winner. We told him we liked the place, had thoroughly enjoyed our luncheon, and would be back regularly, as would, I'm sure, the other local people who filled the place. Kill him with service. I forget who said that, but it's the magic key to success in business. Give your very best and work at making it better, and give them more than they expect for what they're paying. Do what you do so well that you'll guarantee always getting a disproportionate share of the available business. Service. We're here to serve each other. And every one of us does who receives anything back in the way of return. Those who do not serve do not receive anything. The greatest thing in the world is the opportunity to be of service to others. That's why those of us who live in the more enlightened democracies are so fortunate. There's a whole world out there crying for help, for ideas, for endless products and services. The third world, yes, of course, but the first and second worlds as well. Your neighborhood. The extent of your opportunity to be of service can be said to be the extent of your imagination coupled with your education. And the best place to begin is where you are. You may already be wonderfully successful in providing a useful service that makes demands upon your brains and ability, but of one fact we can be certain: it can be improved. Another is that there are always ways to expand your service to others that you haven't thought of. Perhaps yours is work so highly personalized that it cannot be increased. That might be true of your successful surgeon, sculptor, or painter. Within the ranks of every profession, there can be found a sprinkling of great ones whose expertise and service is of a quality and range that they do extremely well with the clientele they develop over a period of time. Then there are the very good, the average, and the below average. But it still works out that our rewards, in whatever form we may realize them, will be in relation to our service. Everyone who needs to earn a living should ask himself or herself, how can I best serve other people? That is, if we don't already know deep down in the very fibers of our being what we're supposed to do, we need to take Socrates' advice and begin an in-depth examination of ourselves. We might begin by thinking about our childhood. What were we attracted to? When we played with other children, did we want to be captain all the time, or king of the mountain? Or were we delighted to be one of the crew? In our daydreams, what recurring fantasy appeared? What were we especially good at in school? Which class did we most enjoy? Another excellent research source is the autograph book we passed around the class at graduations from elementary and junior high school, and high school. Our friends and classmates often saw our strong point, even if we took it for granted or weren't aware of it. I was astonished many years ago to uncover my old autograph book and found nearly every entry saying something like, "Good luck, Earl Nightingale, the storyteller." I was astonished because I had no recollection whatever of having told stories to the other kids. But after thinking about it, I realized that being something of an omnivorous reader, I must have shared some of the stories I read with my classmates. But to this day, I have no recollection of doing anything of the kind. Yet there they all are, all those entries saying, "Good luck, Earl Nightingale, the storyteller." There were my classmates in junior high school and high school actually writing down in my autograph book the career that I should follow. Perhaps they were good enough to do the same for you. To ask, what is the role of attitude in a person's success or failure, is much like asking, what is the role of granite in the Himalayas? Or what is the role of H2O in the Pacific Ocean? Attitude comes very close to being everything about success or failure. With a great attitude, a person can succeed, though he may start with very little else. Attitude makes the sale, or loses it. What is attitude? The dictionary describes it as a matter of bearing or mood, but it's much more than that. Attitude is what sets the stage for what we want or expect to happen. The person who goes through life, as millions do, saying, "With my luck, the whole thing will go down the toilet," goes down the toilet over and over and over and over again. His attitude sets the stage for failure. He or she expects failure. He or she thinks about failing, and he or she fails over and over and over and over again. A person can have a great education, but if he also has a poor attitude, he will almost certainly fail. The attitude that demands excellence always results in excellence. You and I can see to it that we maintain an attitude of great expectations. It's more fun and so much more interesting to adopt and keep such an attitude, and it always results in our reaching new levels of achievement. We're not born with a drive for excellence in our lives and work. Those are qualities that come from learning or experience or both. But we're born with exuberance and curiosity, and when these qualities are combined with great expectations, we can expect marvelous results. We try harder. We put more of ourselves into what we do when we have an attitude of great expectations. That's good enough won't do, not for a moment. An expectant attitude, an attitude that expects good things to happen, that expects success, seems to have an uncanny way of shaping future events and bringing together the most astonishing coincidences. The right people show up at the right time, and suddenly other people around us are infected by our ideas and spirit. Their morale goes up. They're as infected with the idea of excellence and success as we are. A great attitude is marvelously infectious. It can spread throughout an entire company or organization. If there are great attitudes at the top of an organization, there will be great attitudes throughout the organization. Everyone begins putting more of himself and herself into the effort. An American woman was once so impressed by the ragout at a fine restaurant in Paris, she asked the chef if he would give her the recipe. He was happy to comply, and he did so. A couple of years later, back in the same restaurant in Paris, the woman chided the chef about not giving her the complete recipe for the ragout. "It doesn't taste as good as yours," she told him. The chef went over the recipe again with her, and when she told him that she had followed it to the letter, he looked at her for a long moment, searchingly, and then said, "Madam, perhaps you left out the most important ingredient of all. Perhaps you forgot to throw yourself into the ragout." Our true attitude towards something has a palpable effect on those about us. It can even affect animals. A horse, for example, is affected by the attitude of its rider and will often react accordingly. It's as though we send out an aura of vibrations which are picked up by sensitive creatures about us. Women tend to be particularly susceptible to the auras or radiations of others. They feel good about a person, or they feel nervous and ill at ease, even suspicious. Most husbands have at one time or another experienced their wives saying to them after having met someone, "I don't trust that person, there's something fishy about him," and their appraisal is often later confirmed. Many times over the years I've found myself over-tipping the waiter or waitress who has a good attitude about doing his or her job. A friendly, happy, positive attitude often makes up for so-so food or other mistakes that might, had the attitude been average or poor, ruin a dinner. People who serve the public and depend upon tips for a part of their income can often double their tip income by simply improving their attitudes. They'll also cut down on the number of complaints. It's a fact of life that the great majority of people begin their days in a kind of neutral as far as attitude is concerned, and depend upon whatever stimuli they encounter to set the attitude tone for them. If things go well, and it's a beautiful day, their attitude may be fine. If things go wrong, or it's cold and raining, their attitude will reflect that also. Not understanding the importance of a great attitude and what it can mean to us, they put their attitudes in the hands of others or the elements and live accordingly. It's a reactive kind of life, not a very satisfactory sort of existence. I recall the day that the American hostages, held for so many months in Iran, were returned to the United States. The looks on their faces, the way many of them kissed the tarmac upon disembarking from the plane. Blessed freedom, just to be home again. As Mr. Levin, the correspondent who escaped after 11 months of captivity, shouted upon his return, "I'm a born-again American." How sweet it is after it's been taken away for a time, and yet how many millions of us take our days for granted and go about them grudgingly, defensively, with the attitude that says, "Do unto others before they can do unto you." Thousands of people, upon discovering what a change in attitude can mean for them, actually do become born-again Americans or born-again Canadians or born-again whatever nationality they happen to be, because there's no fragment of this freedom of ours that cannot be turned into the success we seek. There are no jobs so humble that they do not have hidden within them the opportunity for greatness and all the success we could possibly want. But it takes an expectant attitude to see it. That kind of attitude draws back the curtains of ordinariness that tend to cloak the work of the majority in common, everyday raiment, and exposes the possibilities within. You know, you and I are on a kind of holiday on Earth. Out of the mystery we appear to share our lives with the other living things on this small, blue, blessed planet. We spend a time here before merging back into the mystery once again. During this time, let us enjoy ourselves to the fullest. To do that, we need to, as wise old Socrates admonished us, examine ourselves and discover what we're best equipped to give for the journey's fare. There's really no good excuse for not doing that which we most want to do, nor for not enjoying to the fullest those experiences we find to our liking. They make the holiday all the more interesting and rewarding. Being on this holiday, there are few times that warrant genuine sadness, unless we take upon our shoulders the problems and miseries of the entire world, and that's futile. We need only brighten the corner where we are to the very best of our abilities. That's our part of the bargain. To give it our best during the time we dedicate to service, and the rest we can enjoy with those we love and with whom we share our lives. To ask, what is the role of attitude in a person's success or failure, is much like asking, what is the role of granite in the Rocky Mountains, or the role of H2O in the Pacific Ocean? It's almost everything. You're the rest. I always felt I was pretty good in the perseverance department. After all, writing a radio program every day for 26 years, that's about 9,000 radio programs to be researched or thought of and written one word at a time on the typewriter before being recorded for broadcast. 6,300,000 words, one word at a time, doesn't exactly label one a fly-by-night kind of person. But next to Diana, when it comes to perseverance, I'm still in kindergarten. She is simply implacable. So between us, setting and reaching goals, no matter what their degree of difficulty, is not a matter for questioning. We do it. We've all seen the motion pictures in which the hero, mustering that last cubic centimeter of strength, crawls over the final sand dune to see, to his delighted astonishment, a shady oasis with abundant fresh water and the cheerful leader of a camel train who volunteers to give him a free ride back to civilization and ultimate victory. It was mustering that last bit of energy for just one more try, and then after that, just one more, that so often leads, in real life, to victory. Nothing takes the place of persistence. Do you remember that little essay so popular 30 or 40 years ago? It's true. Nothing takes the place of persistence once you know that what you're seeking is right for you. When I resigned my cushy job at CBS in Chicago in 1950 and started my own program on WGN, I also agreed to help sell time on my show by calling on advertising agencies. So I'd write my next day's program at night at home, then first thing the next morning I'd start hitting the advertising agencies to tell them why their clients should be advertising on my daily radio program. I was completely unknown in the Chicago market or anywhere else for that matter. My time on the air amounted to just 15 minutes each afternoon. My prospects would say, "No, sorry, your program is not in drive time." That was a ridiculous cliché, since at any time in Chicago there were a zillion cars on the roads and highways, to say nothing of the 10 zillion people listening to their radios at home in about a 6-state area. But that's the kind of answer I got, and so I became acquainted with the word no. After making calls on numerous agencies and getting nothing but no's, I would then rush to my tiny office in the Tribune Tower, get my program ready for broadcasting, and when the little red light came on, I was to be cheerful. Month after month, I made the rounds, and as I did, my thoughts often drifted back to those untroubled days in the quiet, air-conditioned studios at CBS, when all that was expected of me was the occasional exercise of my larynx. Stay with it, I would tell myself. One time I surprised a gentleman standing next to me in the men's room of a Chicago high-rise by actually muttering it aloud. "What was that?" "Sorry, I didn't hear you very well." "Oh, well, nothing at all. Just talking to myself, I suppose." Embarrassing, yes, but no less important for that. Stay with it. I knew that if I could just stay with it long enough to earn the respect and notice of the Chicago advertising community, I could succeed at my project. Stay with it, I would say to myself on those cold, snowy mornings and hot, humid summer days. Stay with it, I would say to myself on those heartbreakingly beautiful mornings when all in the world I wanted to do was play hooky, play golf, or walk along the lakefront in the park. So I made my calls, and I broadcast my programs, and I heard otherwise intelligent agency people say to me, "Radio doesn't work for us." I would then say, "When you say radio doesn't work for us, it's the same as a commanding general saying tanks don't work for us or airstrikes don't work for us. The effective commander makes best use of all forces available to him, and so does the good advertising executive. What do you mean radio doesn't work for us? What radio? Which radio? Which program or personality? Surely some facet of an industry as broad, pervasive, and successful as American radio will work for you. In fact, my program will work for you in Chicago. I'll see to it that my program does a good job for you and returns sales at many times the volume of its small cost." So I'd win the argument and lose the sale. Once he'd made his statement, he had to stand behind it, or run the risk of being a reasonable, flexible, intelligent advertising executive, and that was indeed a great deal to expect. It was in Croc's old bookstore on Michigan Avenue that I found the copy of Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, in which I'd found that 6-word secret to success I'd been searching for so many years. I took the book back into Croc's bookstore and pigeonholed Adolph Croc himself. "Buy time on my radio program, and I'll sell this book by the thousands of copies," I said. "We've tried radio. It doesn't work for us," he replied. "Don't confuse my radio program with the word radio. My program will work for you with this book and with other books in your store as well." He thought a moment, then he said, "I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll give you 40 cents a copy for every copy of the book you sell." Well, I wasn't supposed to work on commission. I was supposed to bring in contracts, 13-week, 26-week, or 52-week contracts. "You've got a deal," I said. Not since the publication of Gone with the Wind had old man Croc seen orders for a book come in the way they came in for the next few weeks, as he wrote me very sizable checks for the thousands of orders at 40 cents a copy. He wished he'd followed my advice and simply bought airtime on my program. It would have been infinitely cheaper. He promptly rectified the matter. I got him to write a letter telling what my program had accomplished for him, and from that time on, with the proof the followers of the world need before they'll make a move, my program began to attract sponsors. It grew from 15 minutes a day to a half hour, then to a full hour, then an hour in the afternoon and a half hour in the morning, then to additional half-hour daily television program, all happily sponsored. On the program, I talked about things I found to be interesting: books, philosophy, people, events. My only rule for subject matter was that it had to be interesting to me. If it was interesting to me, I felt it would be interesting to a large section of the radio audience, and I was right. I've long thought it shameful the way the broadcasting industry as a whole has underestimated the listener. I think the radio listener wants more than repeated news, weather, and music. Radio is certainly one of the greatest educational opportunities in the world, the only rule being, keep it interesting. My habit of muttering to myself, "Stay with it," had paid off, just as it always does. The world is full of those who tried to get out of the doldrums and, meeting with difficulty and repeated turn-downs, retreated back to the big crowd. What's really amazing are the number who've made a sortie into a business of their own and, failing, have fallen back never to try again. Why should succeeding at a business of one's own be easier than learning to ski or play the piano? We're likely to fail at first. It's part of the learning process, but it's no reason to give up. We learn something important from every failure. It's staying with it that separates the winners from the losers. And staying with it applies to so much that is good and healthful in life. Failures aren't the end of the world, far from it. If they were, no human being would ever learn to walk, or speak, or ride a bicycle, or obtain an education. We take early failures for granted in so many things. Yet when we attempt something as adults, something as difficult as going into business, we become so self-conscious. We become so concerned about what our friends and acquaintances might think. One time the late Dr. Maxwell Maltz, the plastic surgeon who achieved a great deal of fame through his book Psycho-Cybernetics, dropped by my office for a chat and lunch. We fell to talking about his favorite subject, namely how a person can come to grips with himself, develop a healthy self-image, and find freedom in his world. At that time, Dr. Maltz, whom we called Uncle Max, was 72 years old. He was as busy as he had ever been in his life, traveling from one end of the world to the other, making speeches, returning to his New York offices for surgery commitments, and starting all sorts of new projects along the way. He told me he had discovered 4 important steps a person can take on a regular basis to form new habits that can build a healthy new self-image. As he talked at lunch, I made notes. Here are his 4 points in the order in which he gave them to me. Number 1, forgive others with no strings attached. You must clean the slate absolutely by forgiving every person against whom you might hold some kind of grudge. You do this for your own sake, your own peace of mind. We don't hurt others when we hold hatred toward them. We hurt ourselves. And we hurt ourselves seriously by allowing such thoughts to fester in our consciousness. So number 1, forgive others, all others. If you cannot take this first step, you can forget the rest. You haven't grown up yet. 2, forgive yourself. See yourself with kind eyes. Try to forget completely all the idiotic things you've done, the pain you've given to others, the embarrassments you've suffered, the mistakes you've made in the past. Again, wipe that slate clean and forgive yourself. Look in the mirror, he said, and forgive yourself. Practice this and you can actually pull it off. It's not easy to forgive ourselves. We're our own worst critics, and we can be much tougher on ourselves than we are on others. But the fact is, blame doesn't help. It's a destructive emotion. 3, see yourself at your best. As Dr. Maltz put it, we can start the day in frustration or confidence. Take your pick. The intelligent thing to do is to pick confidence, if it's at all possible. There are bad days, but it's better to begin the day in a confident mood than in a mood of frustration. 4, keep up with yourself. Don't worry about what others are doing or what others have. Keep your pace. It's different from the pace of others. It's faster than some, slower than others. Forget the Joneses and don't feel guilty about moving ahead of some of your contemporaries. The person who deliberately holds himself down to a slower pace just to be one of the gang is a fool. Keep up with yourself. Live the life you want to live. Earn what you want to earn. Do what you want to do. Live your own life. And don't be too concerned about how others are living theirs. Max told me that day at lunch that he called them the 4 steps to a healthy self-image. 1, forgive others. 2, forgive yourself. 3, see yourself at your best. Choose confidence instead of frustration. And 4, keep up with yourself only. March to your own drummer. Go at your own pace and don't worry about what others are doing. Very good advice from a distinguished physician.